Hello and thank you for joining us on the Monday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the program, ASUU gives federal government 3-week ultimatum for strike over lingering demand. Senator Ndume raises alarm that ISWAP fighters are regrouping in Lake Chad region to plot fresh attacks over killing of commanders. And later on the show, fans berate Super Eagles for boring football against Liberia as Kenneth Real matches Amodu's record as team most capped coach. I'll be hanging out with Kayode Gani Balogun and Adewale Adeoye, while Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Mia Akira will join us later on sports. So if you're ready, let the hangout start. Thank you for staying with us. It's almost 1 year since the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, suspended its nationwide strike. Now that the union is warming up to resume the industrial action, the decision was taken at the end of its National Executive Council meeting in Abuja, where they gave the federal government 3 weeks to implement their demands or risk fresh round of industrial action. GKB, they've been warning. Yeah. They've been warning, we have this coming now, and this is the opportunity for the federal government to, now that these guys are giving notice of strike, instead of after the strike, we should be calling them to the round table. This is not the time to I
think the federal government is a creation of habits. They don't take these threats seriously until the strike is actually called. And we are maybe 2-3 months into the strike. Because they have 1 year to redeem the pledge that they make to the university teachers. And they did absolutely nothing. And that to me is the danger that we face as a nation. Because we seem to only react when we are pushed against the wall. These demands are not out of this world, as you know. But most of them have been agreed to by the federal government, including the way they are meant to be paid and other areas they are supposed to work on. But somehow, the Ministry of Labour, the Ministry of Education, and then whatever stakeholders remain within the context of the negotiation have refused to even move forward in implementing this thing. Because what the teachers are saying is not that they've done about 50% and they're giving them notice for 50. No, they did practically nothing in the last 1 year that can be considered as something done in good faith. And that to me is the danger on why this will happen now.
What are they doing? Is it that the government is so insensitive, or they don't have stakes in these universities, their children, their wards, they are not, attending this university, that you have to leave them for a long time, and it is when they go on strike that we now start talking about meeting on the round table?
I think much depends on the importance we place on education. For most developed countries, education is almost number one, because that will determine the future of every other thing, whether it's industrial takeoff, whether it's quality of democracy, we want to have quality of life. But when you look at the budget we have been, the percentage of budget that we put into education, most of the time 5%, 10%, which is far below
even if that is implemented.
Yeah, the global average, which is supposed to be between 15 to 20%. So I think the issues that ASUU continues to raise, they are very fundamental issues. It's not about those lecturers. It's about the future of the country. And out of the 8 demands that ASUU came up with, only 2 of them have been met, on non-salaries and then setting up of a visitation panel to federal government universities. There are the other 6 demands, are still in the trash bin. And I think it's not a proof of responsibility when you sign an agreement with the government. In fact, since 2013, it's been on and on and on. And then the government continues to sign an MOU, and then the government fails to meet its own part of the bargain. I think it's quite unfair, and I hope the government will recognize the importance, of education. That is about building the future of ourselves, providing security, human and economic security for all of us. If the universities are grounded, there's no way you can talk of development in any way.
Jide, as a result of COVID-19, last year we even have a situation by universities that are even rationing the admission, as in between the set of last year and this year. And if ASUU, if they should go on strike now, you will know the spiral effects. You can imagine the kind of effects that it will have on the entire education sector.
Yes, and that's not what we want to see. I'm really disappointed that this issue has dragged on for this long. I really don't understand why government after government, we've not been able to resolve an issue that has lingered since the year 2009. The agreement with ASUU was originally signed in the year 2009, and nearly all of those issues have still not been addressed. For example, when ASUU kicked against the idea of using the IPPIS payment platform in the universities, ASUU opposed it, and what the government said was that ASUU should go and ASUU should come up with an alternative. And they got the eggheads within ASUU to design a new software that can replace the IPPIS, because the IPPIS is not really flexible for the university system. It's not flexible at all. And then they came up with the University Transparency Accountability Solution, UTAS. But after they came up with UTAS, government refused to take UTAS on board. But you were the one who said they should go ahead and create something that can be an alternative to IPPIS. Because the way it is now, if you like, as you are a vice chancellor, you cannot hire an individual because of the IPPIS system. You can't hire an individual because it won't be captured. So if you choose to hire a staff, then you should be ready to pay the wages of that staff, which means that the universities that have all along been used to this sabbatical system, whereby academics will come from outside of our country to come and lecture in this place as a way of deepening research and all that, would not be able to continue along that line because the IPPIS does not have any provision for them. Lecturers thrive on the idea of being visiting lecturers here and there. Some of them go to the US. Some of them, the current vice chancellor of the Federal University Lokoja worked in the US for years. You know, but the IPPIS system ensures that you can only earn salary in one place. So these guys are saying, no, let's have something more flexible that will allow for the culture to continue. But we are reluctant to yield to that demand. And of course, we also have the government agreed that it will continue to renegotiate the demands in the 2009 MOU. But as we speak now, it's not been implemented. The same government that set up the Musalin Jibril committee. Musalin Jibril used to be the top man at the AUC. You set up his committee. He came up with his findings, and you refused to implement. I mean, it's very frustrating. We need to do something about decaying infrastructure in our universities. For some of the universities, like UNILAG, that over the years have fantastic alumni, people who have so much money, who even if you bring them together, they can build a brand new university because they have been successful. All over the world, you have a lot of them. They can even manage to an extent. But we've seen clearly that there is decaying infrastructure in most of our universities. And also is saying, let's have a system whereby every year, this is how much you release for the purpose of freshening up infrastructure in the universities. This demand has still not been met. Not to talk of the very, we can say issue of end allowance is something that is personal to academic staff. But how about those demands that are meant to ensure that the public university system does not collapse? How many big people are putting their children in public universities now? It is because they can see that things have literally, totally collapsed in the public universities, and we are not doing anything about it. So they cannot call off a strike since December last year, and up till now, the issues that caused them to call us to suspend the strike have still not been addressed. After more than 10 months, it's just perplexing.
You talked about this infrastructural deficit that we have all across.
All across.
Yes. And yesterday we were even talking about that knack for the state government and the federal government to have federal university and state university across the 36 states, despite the fact that some states don't have the capacity actually to fund universities effectively. You have states like, I don't want to mention state, but you have like 3 universities. How do you want to run that effectively? How do you want them to get the best of infrastructure?
Not only states, even the federal government is guilty of ignoring the infrastructural decay in already existing universities and trying to build new ones, including new ones for the military. Don't forget, it's not only civilian universities that we are building while ignoring others. So we have a problem of contextual inability
see the number of students
to do whatever we want. So what we need to do right now, as you are aware, is the fact that if you cannot really fund education, let it go to the private sector. Because it's obvious that we are not interested in the future of our youth. We assume that we have enough private universities or we have enough money to send students abroad so that we have enough for them to come back and take over. But you and I know that it will never be enough because people qualifying for university admission every year quadruple in the last 10 years. That means if you are expecting 3 million people or 300,000 students in 2010, by now we are looking at 750,000 applicants for the same slots. And the facilities are not improving. They remain consistently bad. Don't forget we have pictures of university theaters where people are sitting on the floor, where people are standing to take lectures, where people are hanging on to the frames of the windows. And yet, the same government will go ahead and approve new federal universities for states. I don't even want to talk about states or universities they cannot cater for. Some are having University of Technology, some are building universities along the express, and the only thing you see there is the signboard. Like I said, I don't want to mention
in terms of building, in terms of they have vast land to occupy, but in terms of real physical infrastructure,
it's dangerous.
These guys are not just asking for their own emolument and everything. What they are asking for something that will be beneficial to the whole sector.
Yeah.
And they've been harping on this, and I'm sure the federal government is broke right now to meet this demand. Can they meet all this demand, or they should start?
The federal government may be broke, but if the federal government considers an issue a top priority, the federal government will be compelled to look for money to fund such a project. I think the problem is, like when you are talking about renovation of National Assembly, the government will bring out the money from wherever the money is. So I think the problem is that we don't, place emphasis on public institutions. Probably because most people in government, their children are no longer in public schools. So I think, for instance, they are talking about revitalization funds. It's key because the industrial development of a country, the political economy of a country, whether a country is developed or developing or underdeveloped, depends on the quality of the universities that you have or the schools that you have. So I think if the federal government really places emphasis on education, they can raise those funds. Don't forget that the first generation universities were managed by regions.
Yeah.
Ife up to 1976, Amadou Bello, UNN, and they were of best, of best quality. If you attended, UNN, by the time you finish your medical school, people are already looking at for you abroad. In your final year, UAC and all that, they are already shopping for. In fact, they will bring a helicopter, Shell, to take for interviews from universities. So any university in Nigeria in the 70s and 60s, UNN, Ife, and they could compete with any university, any place in the world, anywhere in the world. But what has happened is that, we have put education into the back burner. We no longer have respect for, the need for us to fund education. If we are really determined, we should know that education should be of top priority, and we should look for the money to fund it.
Jide, talking in terms of we're not even projecting ahead to look at, there was a time the number of people that will sit every year for the Joint Admission Matriculation Board exam, in this country, we had like 35,000, 40,000. Today, over 2 million students, at the same time, sitting for this exam, and most of them will be stranded at the end of the day because I don't know the number of universities we have that can accommodate over 2 million applicants.
And that's why we have to save the public universities from collapse. The people in government would rather watch these public universities continue to decay so that people will lose interest in them, people will lose confidence in them, while private universities that they continue to license every year, owned by their friends and family members, will continue to thrive. That is not what we want to see. In our continent of Africa, the universities that are thriving, the universities that are the best on the continent remain the public universities in Uganda, in South Africa, Tanzania, in Ghana.
Kenya, yeah.
Yes, it's the public universities. It's the public universities. So, and if we are saying that, the future knowledge economy is what will shape the future, the services economy is what will shape the future. It is in the universities as centers of excellence that you can produce the people who will take us into that next frontier. Look at California.
I think
Look at California.
Yeah.
What California is doing with, globally now, it is the brains of people that California thrives upon. It's not as if it has got mineral resources and all that. So we just need to talk to our government to change this attitude. Why should ASUU be meeting consistently with the Minister of Labor and nothing will be achieved? What is the essence of those meetings? It's frustrating. And I'm happy that even ASUU had a few words for vice chancellors. But these vice chancellors, according to ASUU, are simply selling honorary degrees just for personal and immediate gain.
Honorary professorships.
They need to come together. Yeah, they need to come together to save the university system. Because even after you've worked as a VC, a lot of you will still go back to a university like UI, for example, to lecture. So you need to join your colleagues to save the system from collapse.
Okay,
if we really want to fund universities, we can do it.
I have Abubakar calling from Kaduna State. Thank you for staying with us, Abubakar.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Ayo.
Good evening.
And JTV and Baba today through Skype.
Yes.
The issue of our university, most of the time they used to go to strike there and there. And I want to share more light on the issue of IPPIS. The IPPIS, I thought the university, they have their financial autonomy, which they run other diploma program or postgraduate program that they earn money through that. Why not the university finance the other lecturer, the visiting lecturer that they have with the other money? So the permanent staff in the university will be enrolled through the IPPIS. While if any university wants to invite a visiting lecturer, they will pay that visiting lecturer with that financial autonomy that the university has.
Thank you, Abubakar.
Through the postgraduate and undergraduate.
Thank you for your contribution. So, GKB now, we can always aggregate it now and talk about a stitch in time, 6-9.
Yeah.
We should not go into another round of strike for the better part of year 2000. 2000, was it 2000, yes?
2009 till now is about 11 years.
Yes, 2000. No, 2020.
Okay.
That's last year.
Yeah.
December.
The ASUU, they were on strike all through that year.
Throughout.
And our students forfeited
Oh, yeah.
the whole academic year. And we should not be talking about another protracted strike now.
No, I don't know how these people sleep at night, really. When you know that young men who has a future will spend 5, 6, 7, 8 years pursuing a 4-year course. It's criminal. Because in some countries, the only industry they have is education. That's what they rely on. In Boston, Massachusetts, MIT is the greatest honor of the state. People coming and there are universities for you that have been in existence for 600, 700 years. They are all public universities.
Even within Boston alone, you know
I
the
know.
number of universities.
I know.
You have Harvard, you have MIT,
All
you
those
have Boston
colleges.
University, you have Massachusetts University.
It's amazing that we will say we are a developing country and will treat public education with such levity. It's a criminal endeavor of the highest order, because without room for our young men to learn and contribute to society, they will bring the society down. That's why we are going through what we are going through. Because an educated populace cannot be brainwashed to become foot soldiers.
Become bandits.
Yeah, bandits and terrorists. Because you have already been trained to think. Essence of education is for you to be able to think. That's the essence. And once you can think, you cannot be used as a kind of folder for anybody's ambition.
All right. It's your favorite news and current affairs program reaching you live from our headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. This is TVC News, and I have Gani Kaide-Balogun in house with me. Adewale Adeoye still with me in house. While we think that the Boko Haram insurgents are being decimated, it appears that they are regrouping to unleash more mayhem. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Army, Senator Aline Dume, has raised the alarm that terrorists loyal to the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP, are regrouping in Lake Chad region. And the fallout of it was the killing of Brigadier General last week and other officers of the Nigerian Army during an ambush in Akira, Borno State. Senator Dume warned that the terrorists are poised for more attacks despite killing of some of their commanders. Julie, can you please give us a kind of insights into what Senator Ndume is talking about? Because we know from time that this Lake Chad region where basin has always been their hideouts, a kind of a stronghold of terrorists. So we've succeeded in taking out some arrowheads of these ISWAP guys, and I don't know, maybe they are recruiting more to unleash terror across the country.
I think what Senator Ndume is trying to do is to get us to be focused on defeating ISWAP. The good thing about ISWAP is the good thing about us, about the situation with ISWAP, is their stronghold are the islands of the Lake Chad. They are not as dispersed as Sheikh House Group. Sheikh House Group is everywhere. You find them in Central Borno, you find them in Sambisa, you find them on the mountains of Mandara, the Mandara Mountains around Goza, Laminkara, all of those places. You find Sheikh House people. They are far more dispersed and ubiquitous, unlike the ISWAP guys, the Abu Musab al-Banawi faction of Boko Haram that has its headquarters in the Lake Chad island. So he's saying what he's trying to do is to get us to focus on exterminating them in that location. We know that that's where they are. All they do, the recruitment they do, the training that they give their people, their armory, everything is concentrated in that Lake Chad, in the islands of Lake Chad, that is called the Tumbus by the Kanuri people. So he wants us to focus on dealing a decisive blow on them in that area. There's no doubt that we have done a good job of taking out their leaders, and I give tremendous credit to the Air Force for this, because it's not as if we have launched a ground offensive in that in the islands of Lake Chad. Of course, it is a much more difficult area to access than other parts of the state in terms of the swampy nature of the area, the texture of the soil and all that. But each time we hear that they are meeting somewhere, we get actionable intelligence that they are holding a meeting somewhere, the Air Force will send rains of thunder on them, and we've been able to take out a good number of their commanders. I saw a video of an ISWAP commander appealing to his fighters not to give up, not to lose hope. He was saying, look, we have lost, and he was mentioning commanders that had been killed by Nigerian forces. He was saying, look, we've lost so person, we've lost so person, but let's not despair. Let's continue to fight because God is on our side. He was saying all of that.
That means substantially, we have succeeded in decimating their ranks. This strong ISWAP that used to take on military bases.
I will answer that question.
Wow, because I read it earlier, Wally Adoye, I read it earlier that we've, because of our air power and everything, we succeeded in taking out key commanders, and that has weakened them. And this is the time to consolidate on our achievements and mop up.
I think the greatest thing any woman being can do is to die for your country. So I relay my condolences to the families of the general and the other soldiers that were killed. I think from what we read from the accounts, they laid ambush for the general because they were on a revenge mission. The Air Force had neutralized them where they were having a meeting. And we understand at least no fewer than 4 of their commanders were killed. And you know, when you cut off the head of a snake, it's still as dangerous as, when the snake is alive. So they were on revenge mission. And then that was why they were able to, I understand the general received the call that they were attacking Askari, and then he mobilized, and on the way, they laid ambush for him, killed him, and then some other soldiers. So their action was a very desperate action. It demonstrated a kind of a group in disarray that was ready to do anything just to make itself relevant. I think if you see the pattern of what has been happening in the past 6-7 months, the Army, the Air Force, they have been doing a lot of work to get into the mainstream of the terrorist group to neutralize them, using air power. So it's not unexpected that there will be some kind of resistance from them. And if you look at what happened, we are now hearing about Libyan mercenaries, being recruited to come and fight on their behalf. So it shows that thousands of people have surrendered, in Nigeria, and for the idea of now going for mercenaries shows that perhaps they are running at wit's end. So we need to commend the efforts of the Nigerian army, and for them to also realize that the game has not ended, because it has now taken more of international dimension with the collaboration of ISIS and all that. But I think we have the capacity to deal with this issue at the end of the day.
Yes, Jide, back to my last question. This would have impacted negatively on the total strength of ISWAP.
Of course, but as I always say, with terrorists, you have to be careful. Don't jubilate too early. Every time we did that, we had eggs on our faces. These guys are resilient. They are prepared by ideology. They believe that they will go to Al-Jannah if they kill Nigerian soldiers or even civilian JTF. So they don't give up easily. Now, let's talk a little bit about what happened on Saturday. ISWAP attacked Akira with more than 24 gun trucks.
Yeah.
They also came with APCs. They also came with MRAPs that they stole from Nigerian army. Now, if they could attack a location with more than, in fact, it was estimated that they came with about 28 gun trucks. Does that look like a group that is gasping? It means that they still have firepower. Of course, the Air Force responded quickly, and the reinforcement from Brigadier General Babayo, who is the brigade commander in Damboa, after the loss of Brigadier General Zirkushi, who was driving 25 kilometers away he was coming from Chibok, where we have this super camp. He was driving for 25 kilometers before he ran into that ambush, because they set up ambushes in the two locations, the two roads that they knew that will pass through for reinforcement. So, and then they took out this general and some officers. So, if they can come, read that story, read that Dume story again. He's saying that, look, the kind of Ayo, if not because we have air power, we would have been terribly embarrassed as a nation. If not because of air power. That remains the edge that the armed forces have. And it's a good thing that under these current service chiefs, there is a unanimity of purpose. So once the foot soldiers are in some form of distress, in some form of dilemma, the Air Force will swoop in and then take out all of these guys. It was the same thing that happened in Marte. The super camp in Marte was effectively dislodged and overrun by ISWAP. But all of the weapons that they wanted to steal, the Air Force sent in 3 waves of attacks, and they destroyed everything on that location, because that was the instruction they were given, that anything you see on that location, engage, because they are not Nigerian troops. So if it is weapon that you see an armored tank, engage it, because Nigeria.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
There's kind of, with the information we gathered yesterday after the sad event of the killing of the general, and the reinforcement and the attack. It's quite.
Yeah, this is not a conventional war. We've said that many times on this program. So it will ebb and it will flow. Sometimes we will record successes, and sometimes we will get setbacks. It's part and parcel of a war of this nature. So, but having said that, I think there's a need to commend the current cooperation between the arms of the armed forces coming together to make sure. Remember that a few years ago, there seems to be a war of ego between the different service chiefs about who will take credit for whatever they think is happening. But the last 1 year, there has been this harmonization that has worked for us as a country. Like I said, they're not going to go away quietly into the night. They're not just one day going to give up. They're going to keep fighting until they've been beaten to a pulp where they can no longer fight. And that's the mindset I want us to have as a nation. Don't think they're going to run away like you see in the movies. These are people who are driven by ideology. Ideological people are the worst people to fight because they think erroneously that they are fighting for an higher cause.
All right, and finally, though the Super Eagles of Nigeria are close to clinching the Qatar 2020 World Cup tickets, the lackluster performance of the team is disheartening to many Nigerian fans. Fans have slammed the Super Eagles for a boring performance in their 2-0 win over Liberia in a World Cup qualifier in Morocco on Saturday. Victor Osimhen and Captain Ahmed Musa scored from the penalty spot to give the Super Eagles victory. But fans who watched the match lamented that they were boring to watch and blamed coach Gannett Roy. Meanwhile, Roy has equaled Shuaibu Amadu's record as the team's most capped coach. The win over Liberia was his 53rd as Eagles coach, same as Amadu, who had several stints with the national team between 2001 and 2005. So I have Mia Akira from the sport desk with us. Mia, what is the staying power of this Gannett?
Well, let me start by saying congratulations to Gannett Roy. That not taking away anything, from what he has done with the national team so far. Some persons, in my own opinion, gave him that opportunity, and by and large, Roy is still the manager of the Super Eagles, despite the fact that a lot of Nigerians are worried that we don't play the best of football anymore. If we take a look at the historical angle, and then they feel the Eagles as a brand should play better football, win matches. Coaches over the world have a style of playing. Wenger during his days at Arsenal would tell you want to play beautiful football even when we lose or not. And the players, were always happy when they played the type of football Wenger wanted. Take a look at the Spanish national team, that dominated world football in 2010. They came up with a tiki-taka style. Fans enjoyed this. So sometimes, or most times, fans will tell you, we want good football and we want to win. It is a challenge getting that. But I don't think Nigerians are asking for much because of the caliber of players that we have. If you take a look at the talent we have in the national team, we should be doing better than what we have today. And some will tell you, even when the Eagles are playing, we don't watch the Eagles anymore. And that's worrisome. Playing against a team like Liberia, the Eagles could only score 2 penalties, 2 goals to secure the maximum 3 points. And a lot of people were disappointed that the team had no character. The team is predictable. If you are a good tactician, you can easily read the Nigerian national team even before the file out. And this is a team at this stage we felt should have a quality bench. You can easily tell players that would make the first 11 in the Super Eagles team under Gannett Roy. But after 5 years in charge of the national team, people are beginning to ask questions. What is wrong? Why are we not getting a quality bench? Why are we not seeing character in the team? And when things like this begin to happen, then you should understand that to a large extent, the fans also know what they are saying.
What do you think is wrong with that team?
Well, the team, as you know, in the last 5 years, have not had character of any sort. Normally, when we were growing up, you could tell what the team would be under Westerhoff, or even as far back as Otto Gloria.
God bless you.
You know how far back we are going now.
1979.
So you know the players to watch out for, and you know the ones that will not make it. And you know the one that will make it will become a game changer, as it were. But in the last 5 years, we've been watching the Eagles for patriotism's sake. That is our team, and we have no choice in this matter. Of course, some will tell you that these are qualifiers, and you qualify the way you can. You cannot play beautiful football when you get to the World Cup proper. But the morning shows the day. If you don't have a team that has an organic center, something to hold them together, then you have no team. Because everybody knows that all over the world there will be teams that will be 4 or 5 players that are a staple in that team, that are standard, around whom the team will not be built. And other players can come and go. We don't have that. We've been, like I named the last 3-4 matches, sometimes we play a brand new 11 players on every match. So there's nothing we can really do. But like I said, what we need now is to qualify first. Then we can now chase the elephant in the room when we get there.
I remember when Amadou Shoaibu qualified for World Cup, and he didn't take us to that World Cup. Right now, what do you think is wrong with these Super Eagles?
First and foremost, I do not see evidence of coaching. Watching the team, I do not see any evidence of coaching. No discernible pattern. It's like the players are just playing the individual football. Gernot Rohr has overstayed his welcome. He's been in Nigeria for so long. He is eventually going to be the longest serving Super Eagles coach of all time. But what have we got to show for it?
That's the question.
Westerhouse spent quite some time, but he also delivered trophies, starting with the ECOWAS Cup that he won in Bauchi in 1989, December 1989. So what are the trophies that Gernot Rohr can show us for all the years that he's been coaching this team? It's a tough watch to watch Nigeria play, watch the Super Eagles play. It's a tough watch because you are going to be served a turgid affair, and it's not what is pleasing on the eye at all. Nobody wants to watch that kind of football. It's so distressing watching that kind of football. So I'm not surprised that the fans, in spite of the victory, the fans were complaining that, look, this team looks too boring. This team is not, does not inspire you at all. So something must give at the end of the day. I think that the Eagles need a better coach at this time who can really change the way we play, who can impose a style of play that we all can be happy about. For now, there's no style of play, no discernible style of play. Everyone, how can you be needing 2 penalties to beat a team like Liberia? And the other day, we lost to football illiterates. So it's so sad that we are this bad. I can't believe that the Super Eagles could be this bad. And we have players, good players. In the attack, we have some of the best players in the world. So what are we talking about? All he needs to do is just gel this team together. But he's unable to do that. And if he can't blend this team, then what is its usefulness?
As you just said, if you have Victor Osimhen that is very, very hot,
arguably the most expensive African player
right now, and you have to recall Odion Igalo still scoring goals for his team, and you still have this guy Iheanacho in the same team, and you still have a lot of other quality players. Yet you're not getting the desired results.
My biggest worry and my biggest fear under Gernot Rohr is the fact that some people gave him this job easily, and that has brought Nigerian football to arguably its lowest ebb. And why do I mean the lowest ebb at this stage? He made mention of Otto Gloria. Otto Gloria came in 1979. We won the Nations Cup in 1918, the first time Nigeria would win the Nations Cup. And in 1980, when Nigeria won the Nations Cup, we had, good players. In fact, the likes of Keshi were on the verge of making the 1980 Nations Cup, but then he got injured. The likes of Erin Wosu were so young, and coaches like this could spot talent. Coaches like Otto Gloria could smell talent, and they were in the national team. They made the difference. Otto Gloria later coached Portugal to the 1966 FIFA World Cup. And they had a certain man named Eusebio, another African who was fantastic and the highest goal scorer of that tournament. That's one, a quality coach. Come to Westerhoff. Under Westerhoff, players came from Europe but could not break into the national team. John Fashanu was one of them. He could not break into the Super Eagles squad. Despite making a good name for himself in England or wheresoever in the world. But the team was crack. Today, it's a different kettle of fish entirely. Anybody can stroll into the camp, provided you play in Europe. And that's sad. It's worrisome. It's now like, the old thing you expect, whereby the days where Ashoke was booming in Nigeria, and today everybody wants to see something different. Not valuing our own. The issue of the league is there. Even if a coach is saying, oh, the league isn't good, under Keshi, the last time we won the Nations Cup of blessed memory, in 2013 in South Africa, players from the Nations Cup, players from the home front, made it to the Nations Cup. But today, even the NFF president will go to Europe and beg players to come and don the green white color of Nigeria. And at the end of the day, the player will tell you, no, I have not said yes. That's how bad it's been. We beg players to come and don the jersey of this country. And that's why you realize that players know they can easily make the first 11. They don't have to fight for it. Since you can beg anybody to come from Europe and come and don the Super Eagles jersey. It wasn't like that those days. In 2002, when Amadou Shuaibu was recalled to come and qualify the team for the World Cup, the entire defense line was changed to home-based players. One of them was Eric Ejiofor. What is happening? What has changed?
So, Jide, moving forward now, whether we qualify for the World Cup or we don't, but the way it's looking, it's as if we're going to qualify. Gareth Troy cannot take us to the next World Cup.
No, it's just not good enough. It's not, even in Africa, it's not good enough. What has he won on this continent for us? Nothing. Teams, like, if we play a match against Algeria today, even in Lagos, Algeria will beat us. Whereas we've got enough players to be able to beat Algeria or Cameroon any day. The other day, Cameroon beat us. They've not got the kind of players that we have. We have tremendous talents in midfield, in attack, in defense. But this man is unable to blend this team and turn them to world beaters. And if, as a coach, is unable to do that, is unable to get these players to complement one another and deliver the goods, then it's about time that we found a new coach. This coach, who has failed on the African continent, we don't have to take him to the World Cup. They've got to find another coach. And there are coaches who can get this job done.
A lot.
He was talking about Togloria. Well, Togloria was already a World Cup coach before he came to Nigeria. He defeated Brazil, his own country, in the World Cup in 1966. His own country, he used Portugal to defeat his own country. That's a coach with pedigree.
I want to thank you. Mia Akira, thank you for your contribution. Osiare,
Always a pleasure.
thank you for your contribution. And Babajide, thank you for your contribution from Abuja. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. And don't forget to join us on Journalist Hangout on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.